Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're going to explore the April 2025 issue of the Colorado Pilots Association's Flightlines newsletter. It's a really interesting time, I think, in aviation, looking back, but also really embracing what's next. And this newsletter, it seems to capture that mix pretty well.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. What we've got here is basically a snapshot of what's on the minds of GA folks, especially, flying in Colorado.
Mhm.
Our plan isn't just to skim it, but to pull out the really interesting bits, the insights that maybe make you think without hopefully getting bogged down.
Exactly. Consider this your fast track to getting up to speed on this part of the aviation world. We'll dig through this Flightlines issue that's our main source and pull out what we think is most relevant, most engaging for you, whether you're a pilot just really into aviation or maybe just curious about what's happening overhead in Colorado. So let's jump in.
Okay, let's do it. One of the first things that really caught my eye was Adrian Nye's announcement about the CPA newsletter archives. Sounds like a fantastic resource they've put together.
Oh, absolutely. He mentioned they've finished scanning all the old CPA newsletters right back to 1984 and made them searchable PDFs. That's, wow, over 40 years of aviation history you can now access.
It really shows the CPA's, commitment to preserving the history of general aviation in the state. And it's almost complete, too. Just potentially two missing issues, May 1985 and August 1999. Makes you wonder, right? What was going on those months?
Right, like a little aviation mystery waiting to be solved. And for CPA members, getting access sounds pretty simple. Log into coloradopilots.org, go to CPA member benefits, then Flightlines newsletter, and look for archive newsletters. Easy peasy.
And the search function within those PDFs is huge. Say you're curious about, I don't know, a specific airport's history or maybe discussions about a certain plane type back in the day. You just search for keywords. That's super useful for research.
Now, they did decide not to make them all searchable via Google, and that's mainly, it seems, to protect members' personal info from older issues, which, totally makes sense today.
Yeah, definitely. But even so, these archives are an amazing look at how the organization, and really GA in Colorado, has changed over the decades. You can trace the trends.
It's a real connection to the past. Okay, so shifting from the past to, like, the cutting edge, the newsletter also talks about this AI-generated audio version, the CPA Flightlines podcast.
Ah, yes, this is fascinating. Brian Garrett apparently led this experiment using AI to read the newsletter aloud. And it's available on podcast apps. Adrian mentioned Apple Podcasts specifically. Sounds easy to subscribe.
And the feedback, apparently it was pretty impressive. At the annual meeting, they played a sample, and people were saying it was beyond amazing, must be heard to be believed. High praise for an AI
Yep,
voice.
it really is. And think about the convenience.
Yeah.
You could listen while commuting, working out, whatever. It's a different way to get that info without having to sit down and read.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, the AI apparently even fixed some writing mistakes and rephrase things for clarity. That's more than just reading aloud.
It really is. It raises interesting questions about AI and content creation, doesn't it?
For sure. The obvious downside, of course, is you lose the pictures, the visuals from the print version.
Right, that's the trade-off. But for just getting the information, it sounds like a solid option.
And they even did this for the very first issue, back from September 1984. The AI even noted the handwritten date as historical.
That's a cool detail. A real blend of old and new.
Okay, so archives looking back, AI looking forward.
What about right now? The newsletter has updates for April 2025, right? The current stuff?
Oh yeah, the CPA NOTAM section, that's the place for timely info for pilots in the area.
Yeah.
And they encourage members to send in updates too, which is nice, keeps it current.
And then there's a whole list of events happening in Colorado this April. It really shows how active the GA community is. Seems like something for everyone.
Definitely. You've got airport-focused meetings like the Centennial Airport Noise Roundtable and open houses for those Part 150 noise studies at both Centennial and Jeffco. Important stuff for pilots flying out of there. Uh-huh. And for members wanting to get involved with the CPA itself, there's the monthly board meeting. They really encourage attendance. Plus, meetings for various airport advisory boards. Lots of ways to have a voice.
Then you've got the more, fun flying stuff. The Spring to the Skies showcase
Yeah.
at Wings Over the Rockies, exploration of flight, a breakfast fly in there too. And that Wings and Wheels event in Pueblo Planes and Cars. Sounds cool.
Yeah, and learning opportunities too. The Colorado Aeronautics Board meeting discussing grants, that's important for funding. And a CPA webinar on aircraft rescue and firefighting at Centennial. That's critical safety knowledge.
Right. And for just getting out and flying, there's the Rams Aviation Club fly-in and the CPA's own fly-in to Akron, Colorado.
Yeah.
They're even touring the Hayes Aviation paint facility. That's a neat behind-the-scenes look.
It is, and it's not just for current pilots. There's an aviation career symposium at Wings Over the Rockies and an info night for their youth program. Good for the next generation.
It's a really taxed schedule. It covers everything from, like, policy stuff to just enjoying flying and thinking about careers. Shows a vibrant community.
Speaking of community and events, there's that Centennial Airport Runway 5K mentioned. That sounds pretty unique.
Oh, yeah. That's a neat idea. Letting
Yeah.
people actually run or walk on a taxiway and runway. You don't get to do that every day.
Yeah.
Great way to connect the airport and the public.
And it's for a good cause, right? Raising money for the Centennial Airport Foundation and aviation scholarships. They raised over $65,000 last year.
That's fantastic. And they've got some cool appearances lined up, too. The Broncos mascot and cheerleaders, the Denver police helicopter, a historic DC-3 that flew on D-Day.
Wow, a D-Day DC-3.
Yeah, plus the big ARFF fire trucks from South Metro Fire Rescue. Sounds like a fun day out. The website is centennialairport5k.com if anyone's interested.
Cool. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. There's this blast from the past section, reprinting something from 2001. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's creative. It's written like a fictional radio chat between a pilot, Doug, and ATC, but it paints this, like, nightmare future for GA based on concerns from back then.
It's pretty over the top, like no powered takeoffs allowed, mandatory dead stick landings, no go-arounds, airspace choked with towers and restricted zones, backcountry strips all gone.
Definitely exaggerated.
Yeah.
But you get the point, right?
Yeah.
They were worried about regulations piling up and flying becoming harder. And then, surprise, Doug wakes up. It was just a bad dream.
Phew.
But the real point was to encourage people to join the CPA, to support their work protecting airspace and fighting against, unreasonable rules. It connects past worries to their ongoing advocacy.
Right, it makes the case for why the organization exists. Okay, so from fictional nightmares to very real challenges, density altitude, the Into Thin Air article, super important for Colorado flying.
Absolutely critical,
Yeah.
especially as it gets warmer. The article contrasts flying here with, say, Florida. Here, even on a moderately warm day at a mountain airport, your density altitude can easily top 10,000 feet.
And the impact on performance is just wow. The Calc chart example, they give 9,500 feet DA can triple your takeoff distance and slash your climb rate by 75%.
75%, that's huge. It really hammers home why you have to calculate this stuff before you fly here.
The author, James Greer, actually made a PC program to automate the Calc chart calculations. It even pulls in METAR data. That sounds really handy.
Yeah, very practical. And he didn't stop there. He looked at other methods, too, the Denault wheel, Sparky Imison stuff, James Embry's rules of thumb. He put them all in his program so you can compare.
Interesting that there are different ways to estimate it.
Yeah. In the article notes, they can give slightly different answers, especially at higher DAs. Maybe some methods work better for certain planes. James offers his program free on GitHub, and there's a YouTube video explaining it. We'll link those. He wants feedback, too.
Good stuff. Okay, another fundamental safety topic, best glide speed. Adrian Nye wrote about this, thoughts on best glide speed, and he makes a really key point.
He does. He basically challenges the idea that it's just one fixed number for your plane, like, 65 knots for C-172. He explains it actually changes based on your weight.
Right. There's a formula, book speed times the square root of actual weight divided by gross weight. So if you're way under gross, your best glide speed is actually lower. His example, 500 pounds under in a 172 puts it around 51 knots.
Which might sound scarily close to stall speed, right? But he points out stall speed also decreases when you're lighter. Rule of thumb is it drops by about half the percentage you're under gross. So maybe to 10% lower stall speed in that example.
Okay, so they both decrease, but they get closer together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which means you need precise airspeed control in an emergency. Adrian recommends adding a bit of a safety margin to that calculated speed, just in case. Aiming a little higher is smarter.
Makes sense. The main thing is, knowing the right speed for your current weight gives you the best glide range if the engine quits. He even suggests thinking about this in your pre-takeoff brief, like, if we turn back, we'll aim for X knots because we're light today.
And weight affects landing too, right? Lighter planes float more. So you might need to adjust your approach speed, or maybe fly the approach a bit faster and slow down over the fence.
He also points out that most of our practice happens when we're not at gross weight. So we need to be really aware of how differently the plane handles when it's fully loaded. Those POH numbers become really real then.
Yeah, good point. Okay, moving on to something more about the community feel Bill Marvel's article, an ongoing mystery about flying-in attendants.
Ah, yes. Bill, who runs the fly-ins, noticed something his predecessor saw too. Lots of new members come to their first fly-in, seem to love it, say great things, but then don't really come back. It's a puzzle.
And what's weird is they don't usually get feedback explaining why. They try hard to be welcoming ride shares, special name tags, encouraging mingling, and the feedback they do get is positive about the atmosphere. But still, many first-timers don't return.
So what are the possible reasons?
Well, Bill mentions the obvious ones. Cost of flying, family stuff taking priority, other hobbies, especially in summer. All totally valid.
Sure, but he thinks there might be more to it.
Yeah, he wonders if maybe there are other, less obvious things going on. He mentions the potential age gap between some long-term regulars and newer members, and maybe a missed opportunity for connection or mentorship there.
Interesting thought.
So he basically ends by asking members, especially those who haven't come back, to email him their thoughts, confidentially. He really wants to understand it better. Flyings@coloradopilots.org is the address.
Good initiative. Okay, the last big article we're looking at is crucial. Fitness to Fly and Validating Your Medical by Andy Holmes. This is all about pilot responsibility.
And it starts with a pretty stark stat. Human factors contribute to 70 to 80% of GA accidents. That really tells you how important the pilot's condition is.
Yeah, it's not just the plane. Andy stresses that every pilot must self-assess before every flight, physically and mentally. It's key for situational awareness, handling emergencies, everything.
He suggests using checklists to answer 3 core questions. Am I fit? Am I legal? Am I proficient for this flight? And he notes how fitness and legality are often linked.
He brings up the FAFRs too, 91.3 about PIC responsibility, and 61.53, which says you can't fly if you know you have a disqualifying medical condition or are taking medication that would disqualify you.
Right. And the AIM reinforces that. Andy offers a simple check, the AME test. Ask yourself, if I went for a medical right now, would the AME issue it? If the answer is no, maybe, probably not. Don't fly.
That's pretty direct, and it's not just a pre-takeoff thing, right? You need to keep checking yourself during the flight.
Exactly. He mentions the PAD checklist, first, pilot, aircraft, environment, external pressures as the overall risk assessment. Then for the pilot part, you dive into the IMSAFE checklist.
Okay, let's quickly run through IMSAFE.
Sure. I is for illness, even minor symptoms can worsen at altitude. Be honest. M's medication, prescription, and over-the-counter. Big implications. Check FAA resources, talk to your AME. There's no simple approved list.
Got it.
Stress. Job, family, money, pressure to make the flight. It all affects judgment. A is alcohol drugs. The 8-hour 0.04 BAC rule is the minimum. If you feel any effects, even after 8 hours or below 0.04, you're under the influence. No drugs affecting faculties, period.
Okay, F.
Fatigue. Acute, short-term, or chronic build-up. Both kill concentration and decision-making. And finally, E is emotion and eating. Strong emotions, good or bad, can lead to bad choices. And nutrition hydration are critical for your brain memory reaction time. Don't skip meals, stay hydrated. First means you're already dehydrated.
Wow, lots to consider there.
Definitely. Andy sums it up by saying there's no single right way to do IMSAFE, but you have to take it seriously, just like pre-flighting the plane. He includes links to FAA medication guidance, too, which are really useful.
Excellent. Okay, after all that serious safety talk, let's look ahead to some fun. The upcoming CPA fly-ins from May to July sound pretty awesome.
They really do. First, Durango, end of May, early June. Hosted by Colleen Leppert. E-biking, exploring town, chuck wagon dinner, trip to Silverton, and a gold mine. Sounds scenic. Staying at the Best Western.
Then mid-June, the first CPA trip to Hot Springs, South Dakota, hosted by Bill Marvel. Mineral Springs, Pioneer Museum, Kit Plane Factory Tour, optional flight over Rushmore, Wind Cave. Staying at the Springs Lodge. Need to book that one soon.
Then June 21-22, Kremling, Colorado with Yan McKenzie. Main event is a Colorado River raft trip. Staying at the Ellington Inn. Sounds like an adventure.
It does. And then late June, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, hosted by David Ladd. Staying at the historic Blackwell Hotel. Lake cruise, floating restaurant, bird aviation museum, tower tour, and the air show practice is happening right after. Sounds packed.
Yeah. And finally, July 3rd to 5th, Butte, Montana for Independence Day with Kevin Kondrowski. Freedom Festival, fireworks parade viewing, Lewis and Clark Caverns, World Museum of Mining. Staying at the Hampton Inn. Sounds like space might be limited for that one.
Okay, lots of great trips. The registration forms for the first 4 are right in the newsletter, pages 27-30, so people should check those out if they're interested.
Definitely. And just quickly rounding out the issue, there's a classified ad for a 2000 RV6A.
Right, that experimental known for being fun and fast. $96,000, looks well-equipped with a new Garmin panel, autopilot, ADS-B. Contact info for Eric Vickery is there.
And a few other useful tidbits, a link for Colorado aviation events, info on finding board meeting minutes online, EPA social media links.
And of course, the standard disclaimer. This is general info. Always check official sources like the FARs and your POH, plus contact info for the CPA itself.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into the April 2025 flight lines, we've seen a lot. History in the archives, future tech with the AI podcast, tons of community events, critical safety info.
Yeah. Density, altitude, best glide speed, fitness to fly, really important takeaways there. Plus all those exciting fly-in opportunities for adventure.
We hope this walkthrough was useful for you, our listener, a way to get the key info, maybe some surprising details, without getting lost in the weeds.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As we see things like AI enter aviation more, how do we keep that balance? Embracing the new while holding on to those core safety principles and the strong community spirit that groups like the CPA champion. Something to think about. Definitely check out the links, maybe get involved. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.